She is the engineering manager at Google in Waterloo, and also the author of a book called, I believe, Ara The Star Engineer. Is that correct? Oh, a cute book for children about a little girl who wants to be an engineer and then travels sort of emotionally but also physically. I think I didn't get a chance to read it. I'm sad about it. Please welcome Komal Singh.
You first?
Great. Yeah. There it is.
You want to start the video? Okay.
My name is Komal Singh, and I'm the author of the picture book Ara The Star Engineer. I'm also a software engineer by trade. I work at Google currently as a program manager within engineering. I am a mom to 2 kids, a 4-year-old girl who is a fearless firecracker, and a 6-month-old boy who's a sweet pea, and they both keep me quite busy. I was on a work call one day. I was working from home. My daughter was sitting with me and she asked me about the people who were on the call. I told her, yeah, well, that's Alex, he's an engineer. That's Kurt, he's an engineer. And that's Mike, and that's Eric, and they're all engineers. She goes to me in a very nonchalant manner, Mama, engineers are boys. You know, I didn't know whether to be sad, upset, angry, disappointed, all of the above. But I knew that it was time to make her believe that anybody can be an engineer. Ara The Star Engineer is a picture book that follows a young girl along with her droid Dee Dee on a journey to the fantastical land of Innovation Plex, where she discovers a super cool algorithm to solve a big problem. We have 4 role models who are profiled in the book, and they are real-life women engineering leaders of Google. They come from very different backgrounds, and really, I consider them pioneers such as Ada Lovelace or Grace Hopper.
I think that we're really struggling with diversity in tech, and it's really important, I think, if we're trying to solve the world's problems, to have more women in tech.
So, you know, there's well-established research out there that says girls start doubting their STEM intelligence as early as 6 years old.
I grew up in a time when I was always like the only girl in the field. And I sort of see all these girls or minorities or all of these people who don't see folks who are like them and become unsure about whether it's really for them.
Anything that we can do to inspire them, like through this book, is extremely significant.
I have actually never seen a book like this. It completely changes the perception or the stereotype behind what it is like to work in tech.
I'm jealous of all the girls that will hopefully learn something from this book and the head start that they'll get.
When people read this book, I hope they have fun, and I hope they feel empowered to become engineers, but also problem solvers and people who take risks and people who chase their dreams.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here today, sparing your precious time. It's a beautiful crowd, and green does seem to be the color, right? So that's amazing. So I want to talk to you a little bit about from idea to launch. And this presentation or this talk is not about how to design distributed, highly scalable systems or how to even write a children's book. But this talk is about how to take your passion project to product launch. What does it take to get ahead with just about anything in life? And I would love to share some of my learnings as an Eng program manager, as well as an author, as well a parent, and somebody who just scrambles along in everyday life. So from idea to launch. You saw the video earlier, engineers are boys. So it was my 4-year-old daughter who said that to me. And of course, when she said that to me, I was really bummed. I started doing some more research, and it turns out that there was a research published by The Guardian that girls start doubting their intelligence in STEM as early as 6 years old. And I was seeing that play out with my 4-year-old child. And believe it or not, you would be surprised to know this, but less than 5% of children's books are authored by people, women of color, or feature women of color or kids of color in protagonist roles. And I bet the number for STEM-related books are even less, probably less than 1% or so. And while companies do a lot to inspire kids, and we see more and more happen these days, there's very little effort that is put into the pre-K category, and I believe by then the damage, so to say, has already been done. So I wanted to do something about it, and to do something about that, I want to first introduce you to Scully, Dana Scully, and I want to talk to you about what the Scully effect is. So I grew up in the 80s in India. I had a healthy diet of mangoes and a healthy diet of folk tales and grandma's pickles and feminist parents. But there's one more person who was a very important part of my growing up, and that was Dana Scully and also Mr. Spock. So much so, we were allowed to watch only 2 shows at that time, and I happened to pick the X-Files and Star Trek, and I used to love Dana Scully and Mr. Spock. Now, little did I know that they would shape my subconscious subtly so much that later on in life, I actually picked courses in propositional logic because I loved the way Mr. Spock reasoned. And my thesis research was in computational criminology because I wanted to model Dana Scully. So that's the power that role models in books and in TV can have on you. But there was a slight technical problem. Dana Scully was blonde and Mr. Spock was bald, and I happened to have long black hair at that time. So although I thought they were great, and although I was inspired to be in an engineering career because of them, I could never quite see myself excel at it because I did not have role models to look up to who looked like me, who were in books, who were in TV. And I remember writing an essay on if you could be anything, what could you be? And at that time, I used to love spy fiction. So I remember writing an essay where I was invisible and I could go into enemy territory and get things done because I was invisible. But even when I was invisible, I pictured myself as blonde because that's all I read about, that's all I saw. But anyway, the Scully effect was actually a research published by 21st Century Fox along with the Gina Davis Institute on Gender Parity in the Media, whereby they interviewed about 2,000 girls, and they saw that 75% of the girls who pursued STEM careers actually grew up watching Dana Scully and actually saw her as a role model, which is what perpetuated them into STEM careers. So that was the Scully effect. So then I had an idea, what if we could replicate the Scully effect at scale in children's books and give children an entry point through books, introduce them to real-life role models who were like Dana Scully, but also, of different skin colors, Asian, African-American, Hispanic. What if, we just filled children's library with such books and also inspired them with the concepts of engineering problem solving and teaching them STEM concepts. And that's really what I wanted to do. So I started a passion project while working at Google. So, we have this concept of 20% projects, and I started a 20% project, which published the first #1 bestseller. Now, I don't mean to brag about any of these things, but I do want to tell you these salient points because it shows you that anybody can do anything. So yeah, we published a book. I built a team, we published this book. It was a bestseller on day 1. We had endorsements from people like Hadi Partovi, who's the CEO of Code.org, from Gina Davis, from Eric Schmidt and whatnot. Now you might think it's just a children's book, how tough can it be? But believe it or not, there were 40 people working across 15 different teams from 7 different locations. It was about a year and a half, actually 2 years in the making. We raised a ton of money through various pitches inside Google and outside of Google. It did have the complexity of a product launch, and even before it was published, there were 10 countries that acquired translation rights for the book, and we're now at many more countries. And the book was also powered, or is powered, by VR experiences, so kids can actually experience the book in a virtual reality manner. So really, anything is possible. So what I do want to talk to you about is what does it take to go from a passion project to a product launch? Now, in the book is about Ara, who's a 6-year-old girl, and her sidekick droid Dee, and they visit the fantastical world of Innovation Plex, where they meet real-life role models of diverse backgrounds. And these role models, while teaching them problem-solving skills and introducing them to algorithms, also talk about the 4 keys of success, or the algorithm of success, which is courage, creativity, code, and collaboration. And I do want to talk to you very quickly about these 4 C's. I've been given the 5-minute handout by Andre. So, courage. So take the first step first. Now, I know that whenever I am given a project, immediately the thing that happens with me in my head is I start creating a decision tree. You know, it starts with 1 node, and then there are 2 nodes, and there are 2 more nodes, and 3 more nodes, and I try to perfect the scenario in my head. And of course, when things don't go right, I try to steer those things to make them follow my initial decision tree. And you know, what I'm trying to say to you is do not do that. Just take the first step first. Have a rough abstract plan in mind, but go dive in and take the first step first. Optimize for persistence over perfection. Now, this applies, I think, a little bit more to us women, because I think we're conditioned from a really small age to, you know, clip our hair really well, wear neat clothes, and say our hellos and good evenings to everybody. So we tend to optimize for perfection over persistence. And I try to tell everybody that optimize for persistence. You know, I tried to get into Google, and it took me 3 tries over 5 years, and that's when I was able to make it. If I had given up the first time, saying I'm not perfect enough, I would have never gotten in. So, you know, failure is a part of life. Just bounce back up, and please do optimize for persistence over perfection. And this also plays out with, you know, women. There was a research done that women apply for a job posting only if they meet 100% or even 110% of the job criteria, whereas men sort of apply when they meet only 60% of the job criteria, because, you know, they have enough bravado in them. So have more faith in yourselves. Creativity. So, you know, everybody has a unique story. Everybody has a cause. And, you know, nobody really cares about your cause until they see your passion, until they see what is it you want to, why is it that you want to do what you want to do. So I'm so embedded in my everyday story. I'm a woman in tech. I'm a person of color. I'm a mom to 2. I'm a first-generation immigrant. All this is just very staple to me. And I don't see it as anything unique or different. But, you know, it took a lot of other people to tell me that, you know, your story is different. You've got to tell your story to the world. So all of you have unique stories. So unbox your story with creativity. And again, optimize for learning over reward. Whenever you try to take a new project or new path in life, see what kind of learning opportunities that gives you, rather than if it gets you promoted or it gives you a reward. Rewards will happen, promotion will happen. Be in it for the learning. So code, as in computational thinking, not so much code. You know how we're taught to decompose big problems into smaller problems and tackle them one at a time. So, you know, decompose your big problems into smaller problems and abstract the things that are unknown. Don't let the things that are unknown stop you from doing the things that you can do. So, you know, abstract things, abstract the fuzzy and the yucky things, but keep doing the things you can do. Optimize for empathy over logic. You know, every data point is a person, so be data-oriented, have the data with you, but optimize for empathy over logic. And lastly, collaboration. Build a team and let them run with it. You know, as an individual, you can do amazing things, but I bet as a team, you can do extraordinary things. And I applied that with the book. I had a team where we built VR experiences, and it happened to be the first book that came with a VR experience, and that kind of was a disruptor for the industry, but that's only because I had a set of passionate players who wanted to do something. So that's that. Engineers are girls. Let's just change the narrative. And I see it in all these pictures where there's a girl, there's a Latina girl who wrote her own book called Isabella the Space Engineer after being inspired by this book. There's a girl called Xin in Beijing who drew a girl as an engineer when she was asked to draw one after she had read the book. There's an indigenous girl who built her own android. And she wanted to do a show and tell to her class. And then there's a South Asian girl who, you know, did another show and tell on the book and shared the experiences of being an engineer. So yes, take your passion project to the next level with these 4 C's. Thank you.